You're listening to a Galactic Network podcast. For more, go to gncast.com.
We're the ElseNerds.
Hello and welcome to a very special edition of the ElseNerds show. It is special because I'm the only one doing it right now. We weren't able to do a show, with Corey and a guest host this week. So I determined instead of leaving you guys lonely, I'm going to do another one-man show. This is also a way for me to get a little bit more used to doing a one-man show because I still want to do said one-man show. It's just one of these I want to figure out a set time where I can do it. And when you work in retail, that's not always possible. So I've got a couple things here, a couple news stories that I want to hit on that I had seen this morning actually that I really enjoyed. I love the idea of it. And the first one, it comes from Variety, and that is that Roku going into programming with actually licensing ad-supported movies for its own movie channel called the Roku channel. This is something that they have done but haven't done at the same time. The big part of this is the Roku channel promises access to several hundred films, including The Karate Kid and Legally Blonde, from major Hollywood studios like Lionsgate, Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, Sony Pictures, and Warner Brothers. Videos will be accompanied by advertising, and basically this is all to help bolster Roku's IPO. The other part here is the Roku channel will also feature videos from American Classics, Fandor, FilmRise, Nosy, OV Guide, Popcorn Flicks, Vidmark, and UU, publishers that all have their own channels on Roku as well. And I'm going to say this right off the bat, as a Roku owner, as a Roku user, it is one of those things that I really like this idea because of the fact that when you look at the Roku interface, and I wish I had my Roku plugged in here, but it's at my grandma's because I would show it on the TV behind me. But you have how you have the home with all your apps, with all your channels on there, and then you have there's a My Feed section. I could see them removing that My Feed section with this. So with the movie channel. It makes sense. Like I started to watch because they had it partnered with an ad, because the other thing that Roku does is they'll have ads when you go into the channels, and on the side was Watch the Grand Budapest Hotel, sponsored by I think it was like Acura or something like that. It was a car company, and that was really interesting to me just because of the fact that I'm like, I get to watch a whole movie. Now I started watching it, I'm like, well, let's watch something else because I was doing laundry at the time, and so I typically like to break things down into hour chunks when I'm doing that, so it's like I'm not like pause the movie, go downstairs, change out laundry, come back up. Dumb, I know, but I have my quirks. And so it's one of those, like, I could honestly see this, I didn't mind, like Hulu used to do this with their movies before they quit doing that, before they actually went to commercial free for movies, and just doing the commercials on the TV shows. Where this is going to be a problem is if it's some algorithm, like every 20 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever, there's going to be a commercial. I could see that biting them in the ass, because Hulu, I remember watching, this is early days of Hulu, I remember watching Fever Pitch, the Drew Barrymore, Jimmy Fallon movie, and they had commercials in the weirdest spots. Like it was like they didn't take the version that was aired on cable. They took the DVD, ripped the DVD, and then found their own ways to put the commercials in, and it worked sometimes. Other times, it didn't at all. And so it's just one of those things. So I hope Roku doesn't have this with it, like that the commercials are more. It's a more smooth, at the end of a scene as opposed to the middle of a scene. Honestly, I'm really looking forward to this because the other thing I didn't mention is this is all going to be free. So because it's ad supported, it's just a free channel. And the other thing for Roku programming its own channel is a bit of a departure for the way, because usually it's just this is what I tell people when I'm selling people or telling people about these streaming devices. I always say, hey, you have Roku. This is one of the options. And I always say, if you're in a lot of the ecosystems like I am both an Amazon Prime member and a Google Play member. And so having just the Chromecast or just the Amazon Fire Stick doesn't work for me. What does? Roku. Roku plays both. Roku only operates one other channel, and it's with 4K videos as a way to showcase the capabilities of its 4K devices, which is something I did not know because I do not own a Premiere or Premiere Plus. I really would consider getting one now, especially for that little boy back there behind my head. Because like I said, that's a 4K TV, and it's watch Guardians of the Galaxy on it. Oh my God, that looks so good. To answer Growly's question, what is the damage for getting a Premiere account? The Premiere Rokus, those are just newer devices. Those in my area are $80 to $100. So I'll have links to this in the article or in the show notes, and it's a really cool thing to see or for them to be doing, and it just makes sense. All right, the next news story. So out of left field, you'll get the joke in a minute. Because this is something we don't cover. We rarely, when it comes to sports, we really only cover wrestling, and that's when I'm on either by myself, which you'll see later, or when I have a wrestling fan on with me or a professional wrestler. One of the other sports that I love watching it like in person, but not necessarily on TV, and it's baseball. This article came out this morning that this is from IGN. They're taking this from the New York Times, but I'm going to stick with the IGN article because it simplifies it a little bit. The New York Times tends to get long-winded. I know nothing of that. But there's a problem with the Boston Red Sox. They were caught cheating at baseball by using an Apple Watch. Now, that alone sounds a little weird. So from reading this article a little while ago, I guess one of the things that has happened is, and I believe this is allegedly, so I'm going to cover my ass by saying allegedly. And by the way, on ElseNerds, we tend to spoil and swear, so we tend to spoil things and swear, so hey, you've been warned. Didn't do the typical intro. They're accused of, because the Apple Watch is not illegal. What is the fact that there apparently is the Red Sox would have an off-field person watching a camera feed of the catcher. When the catcher signaled the play to the pitcher, so he selected the pitch, they would relay that information to the dugout via Apple Watch, where the information would be passed to the batter. It's not strict, and it's also not strictly the passing of the information that's the problem here. Stealing signs. The process whereby a pitcher's instruction is somehow relayed to the batter is perfectly legal when done through traditional means. The difference here is the Boston Red Sox, currently at the top of America's Eastern League division, so they're the American League, the Eastern Division, use technology to give themselves the advantage, which is against game rules. The thing here, Growly, is, and for everyone listening, is it's not that they're getting the pitch count or that they're getting the pitch. It's more of the fact that they're using the technology here. So you've got your batting coaches with his Apple Watch, and he looks down and they got a guy who's watching the camera feed. So it's all this use of technology. There was a similar thing with this, with the, I want to say the Patriots, but I could be wrong, in football like 4 or 5 years ago, where they were caught recording practices, which was against, but it was not practices that should have been recorded, doing something weird with video cameras. And it's just a weird thing to think about, because you like to think, oh yeah, it's, these are sports, they love to be honorable and all this stuff. But then you got to remember, these are million, sometimes billion-dollar corporations here that love to make money. Especially the leagues. The leagues are billion-dollar corporations that love to make money no matter what, and they reward wins. And yeah, exactly. It's like getting the playbook for the other team. So it's not exactly. I'll put it to you this way: typically what you see in football, and I'll use football as the example because of the fact that it's a little bit easier to say with the plays. You'll see the coaches whenever the camera shows on them. they're always talking like this, where you cannot see their mouth, but they're talking into their microphone. A lot of people do that because they'd have people, up in the press boxes across the way with binoculars, just staring at the coach, staring at Bill Belichick and Pete Carroll, reading lips. And then they would radio down, they're going to do a slant right pass or whatever. That's fine, because there are ways to get around it. I just got around it. The problem comes in with the use of technology, because then what's to stop? Like I see the slippery slope here. So I see this side of it. Like, I'm not, poo-pooing the Red Sox for doing this, because every team is going to try to get an edge. I think, it is a little bit of a poor sport when they're using, the technology. They got a guy watching a camera feed of the catcher's crotch, because that's where they call the plays. I don't know. It just seems shady to me, and I don't like it. Now, then again, I am also not a Boston fan, so that could play into it as well. But I mean, who knows? And Growly taking Beatmaster's plays today. The catcher's crotch is where you'll find other balls. Brilliantly put, Growly. 3 points to you. So that is it for the news. Like I said, this is probably gonna be a shorter show here, because I'm doing this all by myself. But anyways, to the Patreon read. And if it sounds like I'm a little disjointed, it's because there's a delay with it. If you go to gncast.com/support, that is where you will find one of two things. You will find our Amazon affiliate page, which if you go there, you spend money, you do your shopping like you normally would. What then happens, your price doesn't change, but we get Jeff Bezos money. We get money for you just shopping. But the other thing that we could do, and this helps us out more because it's directly to us, Patreon gets a small little cut, but you can go to our Patreon page. It's at gncast.com/support, but it's also at patreon.com/galacticnetcasts. And on there, you will find exclusive things. Like I do a comic book. It's not exactly regularly, but a comic book pull list / review show, part of which is going to be in today's episode of ElseNerds. And you find Peter Fisher is working on his app show, which he has invited me on. And it just sounds incredibly awesome. And I believe you get these for $3 a month. So you look at my show, you're getting like 4 episodes, 4 5-minute episodes a month for $3. That's a steal. You'll find that all at gncast.com/support or patreon.com/galacticnetcasts. All right, on to segment two. And the first one I want to talk about is one that you'd almost think I have another podcast coming up, where I'm getting myself ready for this. And this is another wrestling story, or thing I'm going to talk about. It's the Mae Young Classic. So WWE has done 3. This is their 3rd special event tournament style thing. And the first one was focusing on cruiserweights, so wrestlers who are 205 pounds and under. The second one was the UK tournament, which they crowned the UK champion, which featured everyone from, basically competitors from the United Kingdom. And this one is the Mae Young Classic. Now, this is basically a women's wrestling tournament. And I have to say this right now, because the rumors had been that with this, you are getting, they're going to be starting, much like they did with the cruiserweights, a women's wrestling show. And like they've been trying to do with the UK, but it hasn't exactly worked out. I'm going to say something right now. Looking at the 32, and you can go, I'll have a link to the bracket for all 32 competitors, and then you can, look them up as you go. All 32 of these women, I could honestly see being the roster for this show. Like, forget the tournament. These 32 wrestlers, I could see putting on phenomenal matches on a weekly basis on the WWE Network. Some of them, I would even say, you do similar to what you do with the cruiserweights, except I would actually modify it a little bit, and I would go a little bit old school WWE when they did their first draft thing, where they had the undisputed champion would be on both shows. You do something like that with the women. You do So it's not like, oh, the cruiserweights are only on Raw, and so if there's any smaller guys that are on SmackDown, well, they're not in the cruiserweight division. But you do, where you've got these girls coming in here, which it's going to revitalize the main rosters anyways with the women's division, because it's basically been 6 women on a side, 6 women per show, and that's not the best idea for it, because the storylines tend to get a little bit boring, if you will. You'll have like, oh, well, here's, now it's Natalia's turn as the WWE Women's Champion, and now here it's Charlotte Flair, and now it's, it gets pretty repetitive without new talent. And some of these girls, I think, or women, I think they would need to be in NXT for a little bit, into the training grounds, either to learn the American style of wrestling, with the promos and the showmanship and all that, or just because they're talented enough to do the tournament, but maybe not put on the matches that the Charlotte Flairs, the Sasha Bankses are putting on for on pay-per-views and stuff like that. This also leads to a problem I have with this tournament style, because a lot, with the exception of, I believe, maybe at the most 8 people or 8 women in this tournament, everyone is or was not signed to WWE when they came in. So, and they're using 8 girls from NXT, which is you got WWE with the Raw and SmackDown and all those big pay-per-views, and then you got NXT, which is the up and comers show. And it's one of those shows, honestly, where there are months where NXT is putting on, and Growley's saying, so more skill rather than performance for the women. There's a lot more skill with the competitors, but some of the performance stuff aspect isn't quite there. This whole tournament, though, it brings up the problem. Like, you got these 8 women who are in NXT already signed to the WWE. That is 8 spots, and I'm using 8 as a rough guess, that could have been used to bring in other talent. For example, I'm going to give one example, because it's mainly, I don't like her gimmick. Bianca Belair, that's her name. Her whole gimmick is she's the EST. She's the baddest, the strongest, the est of the women's wrestling. My problem comes in with the fact that she is like, okay, you have the attitude thing, but then it's like she's got this. She uses her hair as a weapon. I'm like, okay, that's a weapon. Yes, it's on her, and they're technically, and JR did hit it when doing commentary, like, talk about the rules and stuff. I'm like, it's like, all right, we don't see anyone else doing it, which is a good thing. No one else is using their hair as a whip, but it's just like, it seems like too much of a one-trick pony for me. And I have a problem with the one-trick ponies. It's one of the biggest reasons why I don't like Braun Strowman, because, it seems like everything he does is just either no sell, or it's to show, just be this big, strong man. But anyways, I look at this roster, and it's been a phenomenal tournament. Like, I've seen all the episodes up to the finals, which are this next Tuesday, the 12th. And there are some killer matches in there, and some women who I feel like need WWE contracts. Sign them up right now. You get them in NXT, some of them for a little bit, some of them for a little longer, and then pull them up on the main rosters. They will revitalize these women's divisions. Problem comes in with this whole tournament. It was designed for 2 people: Kairi Sane and Shayna Baszler. Shayna Baszler, you will probably, especially if you're a sports fan, like fighting sports fans, will recognize her. She is a former UFC competitor. She is one of the four horsewomen of mixed martial arts. She jumped to professional wrestling, and she's now apparently going to be signed by the WWE. And I look at this, and I'm a little fearful of this, because she's the female Brock Lesnar. And this is not a slam against her, because she performs better than Brock Lesnar does now. Brock Lesnar put on great matches, but now with him coming back and being a part-timer, he only puts on these, like, he will only really put on killer matches with people he thinks deserves to be in the ring with him. I have a problem with that. But with her, with Shayna Baszler, she's a strong competitor. She's, a fierce competitor. I could see it being a problem as a gimmick, but I also see a lot of potential with that. Because they hinted at it in in the Mae Young Classic. 4 horsewomen of the MMA, 4 horsewomen of the WWE. You know, we had 3 of them in each on either side of the ramp. And so it's one of those, like, you do this as a WrestleMania or Survivor Series match where it's an 8-woman tag, the 4 horsewomen of the you know, to determine who is the 4 horsewomen of fighting sport. That's going to make money. That's going to make a lot of money. Now there's going to be a lot more signing that had to have to be done, and some of the women would have to be a little bit more trained in the WWE side of things. But I like that. The other part is the other competitor in here. These 2 are in the final. Shayna Baszler and the other one, Kairi Sane, are in the finals. Like, and it's one of those, like, I figured that much because there was a lot of hype around Kairi Sane. She's wrestled, I believe, in New Japan. She's, I mean, brilliant competitor. There's honestly a lot of these competitors that I look at and I go, okay, yeah, they could put on great matches. They could do this. And she's the same way. You know, she's wrestled all around. She's wrestled for, actually before this, World Wonder Ring Stardom is where she wrestled. Like, I feel like she's going to be a good addition here. Like, I hate to compare her to the men, but I mean, a lot of more people know. But I see her having, you know, a similar stardom like Shinsuke Nakamura had when he came into the WWE. Like, you had the wrestling marks who knew him, who watched him in New Japan, you know, watched him face, you know, Brock Lesnar and his, you know, as a very green fighter. And then you get, you know, like, I see her doing this because, and one of it's because her personality, her, you know, her persona is amazing. I love this persona that she has. And it was very fun, very energetic. It's a persona that I could see her not needing to change a lot to play both a good guy and a bad guy. I'm gonna name a couple other wrestlers to be on the lookout for. Xia Li from China. I thought she was eliminated in the first round. I thought she did great. You know, I could see her, you know, being brought in and utilized right away. Maya Yim from South Korea. Just her story alone, like, they talked about her story a little bit. But you start with that, and then you go into her fighting style, and that, oh my gosh, some explosive matches. I would love, like, honestly, one of the things I would love is to see her and Candice LeRae, who is actually married to Johnny Gargano, an NXT wrestler right now, who's they call him Johnny Wrestling. In there, it's one of his nicknames. She got eliminated in the second round, third round. And it's one of those, like, I would love to see her do this because she, much like her husband, you know, very good fighting spirit between the 2 of them. And you could see it with the matches. And plus, she's got a sweet finishing move. I mean, in all honesty, it's called Miss LeRae's Wild Ride. And it's one of those moves that you've never really seen before. Toni Storm out of Australia. She's another great competitor. Dakota Kai from New Zealand. Actually, the whole, like, there was 3 wrestlers from New Zealand or Australia, and those were some of my favorite matches to watch just because of the fact that you had, like, they instantly had the crowd going. Yeah, especially the Australian side, because they always go, Aussie, 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 oi, 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 Aussie, oi, you know, right away, just behind them. The other one is Rhea Ripley. She's super strong competitor, only 20 years old, which surprised me a little bit because she has the experience of someone who's much older. And I think it's one of those things, like, I am super excited to see what happens with these competitors. I just hope WWE doesn't do what they did, like, pass up like they did with Zack Sabre Jr. and they have a lot of these women wrestle on for them. The other thing I'm going to talk about, unless I think of anything else, is this stack of comic books. These are the first 10 issues, or actually the 10 issues of Secret Empire, starting from, or actually 11, because it starting with issue 0 all the way to issue 10. This is Marvel's latest event series that they have completed. One of the things I'm going to point out real quick is, and I don't know how well it's going to look, but I love the logo on the cover. Like, this is one of the things I would honestly do with the comic. Yeah, Cap versus Cap, as Growly's putting it in our YouTube chat. But you look at the logo between Secret Empire. And there's issue 1, 2. Like, it was here, like you slowly as you're watching this start to realize like when you get to issue 3, and this is actually the variant edition, which is one of those that I love. It's an Andrea Sorrentino variant cover of Lady Thor, but you slowly realize, wait, something's going on with the logo. And then Hydra is taking over and all that, all the way to where you get the full-on Hydra Cap shield, and then you see it breaking, and the return of the traditional Captain America shield with it in all its glory, no damage around it. Now, I'm going to hit on something real quick with this. I'm interested to see what, for example, my fellow Galactic netcasters, Brad Ludwig and Corey Scott, the other comic book readers, well, former comic book readers, but comic book fans, think of this series, because this is one with the start of Captain America, Steve Rogers, written by Nick Spencer. It was one of those things that I'm like, this is an interesting concept, because it was taken out of Assault on Pleasant Hill or Avengers Standoff. I think it has another name too, where Captain America comes back. He gets youngified again. Oh, but there's a secret. He's Hydra. He's always been Hydra. It was one of those, like, you could sort of figure, like, they're not going to retcon the history that much with it, but it was a fun idea to look at. Like, oh yeah, he was Hydra this whole time. Well, what would that look like? And you see that playing out with, him growing up and being best friends with Baron Zemo, with Helmut Zero, or Zemo, and you're going through it, and you're getting this political espionage type of stuff from him, and yet you're getting on both things, because Nick Spencer wrote both Sam Wilson Captain America and Steve Rogers Captain America. He was doing these at the same time. And so at the flip side, you had Sam Wilson, who was very much a modern political thriller about the state of the country, and all these racial tensions that are going on and stuff like that. But you never had, like, when I remember first reading this, I was just like, okay, I'm here for the ride. Yes, it might sound a little far-fetched that, Cap being a member of, being Hydra this whole time and stuff like that. But I just thought, okay, this is great story. I'm going to let them tell it. You fast forward to Secret Empire, where Cap has successfully overthrown the government, or Hydra Cap, Captain Stevel, as it was pointed out, as it was coined in Mighty Captain Marvel issue 9 that came out last week. So you've got, Captain America as a bad guy, took over the world, locked out a lot of the heavy hitters, the cosmic heroes outside of the Earth with a defense shield thing. And he also captured some brood eggs, or some Chitauri eggs. So the Chitauri are coming in waves because they want their eggs back. You have this other Captain America here we're following, and you're like, wait, where is this coming from? And it turns out that when Kobik, the sentient cosmic cube, rewrote Captain America, she basically kept a backup, because she just thought she was doing what was good. She was listening to Red Skull, bad choice, and going about that way. And let's call him Classic Cap, because he is. He is the true red, white, and blue Captain America. And it's one of those that, even though Secret Empire hinted at Generations, and Generations is going to hint at, or it has been hinting at, the essentially Marvel's Rebirth. I'm forgetting what it's called, but I didn't mind it because this is a truly self-contained story. Growly is asking, he wonders about the fall of those who died, and this is the interesting thing. I applaud Nick Spencer for sticking to this route. You have Kobik, the sentient cosmic cube. The first issue and the 10th issue were both drawn by Steve McNiven. Steve McNiven did the artwork for Civil War, the first Civil War book, with that Mark Millar wrote, and that's Captain America: Civil War. The movie was loosely based off of. He does a great job in here. He captures in issue 1 the death of Rick Jones so well. It was so good that I'm like my heart broke. And I'm not a big Rick Jones fan. Like, I don't hate the character, but it made sense that they gave him something to do after he got de-gamified by Dot Green, by the Hulk that had the brain of, that still had the mental capacities of Bruce Banner this last time. So you have a couple of tragic deaths in here. The death of Rick Jones, but more importantly, the death of Black Widow. And this is something that had been hinted at since Inhumanity, the last event book that featured the Inhumans. It featured the Inhumans. No, sorry, it wasn't Inhumanity. It was Civil War 2, because it was like both of them. They're like one tied to the other. And you have with this, you had the prophecy from this Inhuman who could predict the future that Miles Morales' Spider-Man was going to kill Captain America. Now, they didn't know at the time that he was Hydra. All you saw was him, with Cap on Cap through a stake out on the state capitol, or in Washington, D.C., on the Capitol building. We get to that moment, and this is, again, where I will applaud the artist. This was done by Andrea Sorrentino. If you have not read any books that she does the art for, you're doing yourself a disservice. I first got in touch with her art during the New 52 when she was doing the art for Jeff Lemire on Green Arrow. I love her art style. It's so great. The way she tackles violence, where she's showing more than what she probably could show if it was just in plain color. But with the fact that she's almost doing a Mortal Kombat approach to some of the things where you're almost seeing like the skeleton with the bone breaking or whatever. You get that same thing here, where Hydra Cap actually kills Black Widow with his shield. He's got the pointed, the more traditional shield. I believe they call it a kite shield. And he's going to do that. He's going to use it to kill, and there's other cool design I would say about the shield. At the point it has, like, it'll come out at the end, it'll actually point out, and like there's like a knife there, so like blades there, so it can be used as a weapon. He's going to do this. He's going to kill Miles Morales, and Black Widow, very last second, she comes in and he punches her right there. Is right there, breaks her neck. This is one of the things, like, I could have. I applaud them for not rewriting the history with this and have Kobik erase the deaths of Rick Jones, of Black Widow. As they said it, as you put it in issue 10, she rewrote the world, but she gave all of the heroes the wherewithal of what happened so that this would never happen again. Now, Growly Bear is asking about Generations, because Generations started while Secret Empire was wrapping up. I believe it started during issue 5 or 6. Generations, and for those of you guys who don't know, Generations is a series of one-shots that lead up to Marvel Legacy. That's the name of that book that I was thinking of. That is leading up to Marvel Legacy. You see it in the end of issue 10, where Kobik takes some of the heroes, some of the newer heroes, Ironheart, Kate Bishop's Hawkeye, Ms. Marvel, these legacy, quote unquote, legacy characters, Jane Foster's Thor, and she puts them in with, they're placed in this the stories with their predecessors. So, for example, one of the stories that came out last week was The Archers. It was Kate Bishop and Clint Barton, the Hawkeyes, on this Hunger Games style island where, they have everyone's wearing a belt that if they try to take it off, it's apparently a bomb. But if you hit on like the belt buckle part, it teleports them back to wherever they go. This does a couple things. It's brilliantly done because so far every book is written by so for example, that book was written by Kelly Thompson, who is writing the Hawkeye book that is focusing on Kate Bishop. The Thor book was written by Jason Aaron, who is doing the Mighty Thor book, which is focusing on Jane Foster's Thor. Every book is being written by the person who is writing for the younger characters. So one of them, for example, is going to be Cap America, the cap, I believe it's called the Captains, but it's Cap America, Steve Rogers, and but like an older Steve Rogers, like a previous in time Steve Rogers, and Sam Wilson, and they're going to team up, and it's going to help them to come about some ways here, to help each other learn things. I look at Generations as a series of great one-shots. Because there's some, like, for example, a few of them will hint to the books that the younger one is in. So, for example, the Ironheart and Iron Man was one, and I believe that one came out, and it will lead back to or hint back to Invincible Iron Man, which is still starring Ironheart. The Thor book did that same thing with Mighty Thor, but then it also hinted at events that will happen in Marvel Legacy. It's giving hints without necessarily being directly tied, if that makes sense. But yeah, definitely I would say go check out Secret Empire. Some of the trades to check out with the tie-ins to check out with it. The all new Guardians of the Galaxy tie-in was really good. The Mighty Captain Marvel tie-in was really good as well. Told the story of these three young kids. They're Alpha Cadets because Captain Marvel is still the leader of Alpha Flight when this is happening, and how on their first day they go up to Alpha Flight just as the shield is getting locked on, turned on and locked, the door locked. And as you would imagine, hilarity ensues from there. But yeah, that's going to do it for me.
The galaxy far, far away feels closer now than ever before, and your guides through this galaxy are ready to help. I'm Zach Hagenbusher, one half of the new Jedi Archives podcast with Ben Schultz. Join us every other Tuesday for our experiences with the Star Wars saga, from the core films that we know and love, well, some of them, to the annals of history and the works that shaped Star Wars into what we know it as today. Just jump in wherever you'd like. Download an episode of the new Jedi Archives today.
I appreciate. I'm going to tell you right now, because this is going to be a slightly different closing thing where I ask for help. First, I will say, make sure you follow everyone on Twitter. The show you can follow at ElseNerds. The network is at Galactic Netcast on all the social media stuff. Our producers, Beatmaster is at Beatmaster80, and Evan is at Mr_Fusion. You can see all of Corey's comic books or the comic stuff that he does with Levi over at don'taskcomics.com. Sean is at SBurnsPA. Wish him some love, as he's our booker / sporadic guest host when he is at a place that has better internet. But I want feedback specifically for this, because I want to roll this out as a one-man show, done at the least a bi-weekly basis. So, every other week basis. So tell me, what did you think of this? You can send us mail at ElseNerds.com. That is, send it to mail at ElseNerds. Mail at ElseNerds.com. I read all of it, so you are more than welcome to do that. Or you can leave us a voicemail at 805-328-3966 and just put in there hey, this is for Greg or for Gregor. Or you can send them to me on messages on the social medias. I am at that Gregor on most of them, or some variation of that. Like, I think on Instagram I am that.gregor42. So you can find me on all the places like that, or very simply follow my Twitter. It'll link out to everything else. Or you can ask me, hey, what's your thing on this or that? And I will answer it. Or I will learn of new social medias. Because you were telling me, what's this? Like Ello. I don't use Ello. I don't know anyone who uses Ello. So until next week, where we will hopefully have Corey back and we will have guests and it'll be fun, happy fun times. This has been a Don't Tell Glenn production. We will see you next week. Or else.
For more on this Galactic Network podcast, go to gncast.com. That's gncast.com.